Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to the eighth inning stretch. No, you're not imagining things. We are on a bit later than normal, but we're here. I'm AJ. He's Carson, and believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, Carson, but baseball season is unofficially halfway over.
Yeah, it feels like only yesterday that it was opening day, and to quote the Beatles, yesterday all my troubles seemed so far away, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it seemed like yesterday was spring training. But yeah, I saw a thing the other day and something about the halfway point of the season. I went, what? Um, yeah, it doesn't seem possible. But here we are. We are at the midway point of the season, and that means we're gonna do a little mid. Talk about some of the stuff that's gone down, some of the big stories that have gone down in the first half of the season, and look ahead to the second half of the season. Make some bold predictions because that's what we like to do here on the show. So, but first, as always, let's start with our poll results. So we asked you guys with Willie Mays passing, who's the new greatest living baseball player? And with 28% of the vote, coming out on top was Philly's great Mike Schmidt, followed by Ricky Henderson with 25%, Randy Johnson 20%, Greg Maddux 19%, and the ever mysterious other with 8%. This might be the first poll that we've ever done that there's no bad choice here.
No, absolutely not. All of these guys are absolutely fantastic choices. I am I guess I'm a little surprised at Mike Schmidt winning this, simply because in my eyes, at least, when you look at these guys, he doesn't quite have the name recognition to like a casual baseball fan. But then again, we do have the best fans in the world, so they already know who's good and who isn't. It doesn't matter what their names are.
I was gonna say we don't. I wouldn't say that we don't have that. None of our fans are casual fans, but I mean, I think we definitely do have. I mean, obviously, some of you are not. Not all of you are hardcore, diehard baseball geeks like us. And we know that, and that's okay because that's this show. This thing is for all baseball fans. Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you, this might be an interesting little experiment because if you polled, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if you polled, I don't know how you would do this, but if you polled quote unquote casual baseball fans, I wonder how many of them, like, if you asked 100 casual baseball fans, again, I don't know how you would define casual, but I wonder how many of them would recognize the name Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, it is. It is very curious, but again, I mean, talk about somebody who's well deserved of the honor of the greatest living player. I mean, almost 1,600 RBIs, almost 550 home runs at 548, 2,234 hits. Like, he is very well deserving. A 3-time MVP, a Hall of Famer. A World Series champion in 1980, 10-time Gold Glove, 6-time Silver Slugger, World Series MVP. Like, he's done it all.
And I would make the argument as one of, if not the greatest third baseman of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, that's a whole other that's a whole other debate for another time. But I don't know, man. I mean, best third baseman of all time, Mike Schmidt, Chipper Jones, and probably George Brett.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Chipper Jones. Chipper Jones is the best third baseman that I ever got a chance to see play. Obviously, I didn't get a chance. I never saw Mike Schmidt play or George Brett. I think Brooks Robinson you have to put in that conversation. Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs, I think there's a lot of really good. My point is, there's a lot of really good third basemen, but I would make a strong argument for Mike Schmidt is the greatest third baseman of all time. But that brings us to the next name on our runner-up in this poll, Rickey Henderson. Now, there's a name that I think even if you're a casual baseball fan, I mean, you have to know who Rickey Henderson is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Rickey, one of the best by far. I mean, all the rest of these guys. I mean, Randy Johnson too. Like
everybody knows Randy Johnson.
Everybody knows Randy. Greg Maddux. Certainly has some name recognition. Maybe a little bit more on the Mike Schmidt side in terms of name recognition, but yeah, all four of these guys very well deserving potentially of this honor.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched baseball at all in the 90s, Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, and obviously Mike Schmidt and Rickey Henderson were of an earlier generation, but yeah, I mean, I can't, like I said, I feel like I can't argue with Mike Schmidt winning this poll, but me personally, if I were casting a vote, my vote would be for Rickey Henderson.
That's fair. I think I'd probably give my vote to Rickey as well, personally. But again, there is, like we've talked about it ad nauseum. It feels like, AJ, but there is no wrong answer here.
No, not that there's ever really a wrong. Well, yeah, there's not really ever a wrong answer in these polls. But I mean, Rickey Henderson, 10-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion, AL MVP, ALCS MVP, Gold Glover, 3-time Silver Slugger. Obviously in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Scored almost 2,300 runs in his career. Stole 130 stolen bases in a single season, which Carson, I would make the argument that might be the most untouchable record in baseball history, in all of baseball.
Yeah, that argument certainly absolutely
130 stolen bases in one season. Are you joking?
Insane.
I mean, I still think Ellie Day. I still honestly believe. I'm sticking to this. I still think Ellie De La Cruz. At some point, we're gonna see Ellie De La Cruz crack 100 stolen bases in a year. I mean, if anyone could catch Rickey, it would be Ellie De La Cruz. And then of course, Rickey led the American League in stolen bases 12 times, which is again ridiculous. And ended his career with 1,406 career stolen bases, the most of all time. Again, a pretty untouchable record. I don't know, man. Like, if Ellie De La Cruz reaches the levels and the heights that I think he can reach, I'm not saying he'll catch Rickey Henderson, but I think Ellie could give Rickey a run for his money. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. For me, it's still a little early in Ellie De La Cruz's career to say.
Oh yeah, way too early. I mean, he's this is his second year. I mean, this is his first full season.
Yeah.
No, he's got a long ways to go, but I just I don't know, man. The Ellie can straight up run. So, but yeah, that's quite the resume from Rickey Henderson. And maybe the most impressive part of Rickey Henderson's career. So, I mean, he started playing. He made his debut with the A's in 1979. His last season was in 2003 with the Dodgers. That's just the kind of longevity that we just don't see anymore.
Yeah, absolutely not. And
yeah,
yeah,
that's nuts. I mean, that's sorry everybody, I suck at math. So 2003, 1979. Yeah, 24 seasons. Yeah, we don't see that kind of longevity anymore. You see guys play 10, 12 seasons and then that's it. I mean, obviously part of that is there's more wear and tear on players now than there was, when Ricky played, but anyways. So that's our poll. Thank you as always, everybody, for taking part in the poll. There will be a new one up tomorrow. Speaking of new stuff, there is a all new episode of the Book of Baseball. Currently now available for your viewing enjoyment at eighthinningpod.com/Book of Baseball. This one's called Summer That Saved Baseball. It's sort of a sequel-ish to the last episode, which was the World Series that wasn't, which was about the strike in '94 and the strike shortened season and the canceled World Series and all the fallout from that. So this one is obviously, the Summer That Saved Baseball. It's about the '98, summer of '98, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and for a good chunk of it, for a good chunk of the time, Ken Griffey Jr., who, Carson, I think I mentioned this on the last episode. A lot of people forget. Everybody, whenever anyone talks about the summer of '98 in the home run chase, everybody talks about McGwire and Sosa. Obviously, McGwire broke the record, and Sosa was right there on his heels. Ken Griffey Jr. was in that thing right down to the wire.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit too last episode before diving into Willie Mays. But yeah, he was in there up until the bitter end, but until McGwire and Sosa, took matters into their own hands and jabbed some certain illegal substances into themselves.
But no, Ken Griffey Jr. was in the thing right down to the wire, until McGwire and Sosa McGwire just went off in the month of September, in '98, hit something like 4 home runs in his first 2 games or something. Again, easy to do when you're, juiced up to the size of a Mack truck. But anyways, the new episode of the Book of Baseball, The Summer That Saved Baseball, now available exclusively at eighthinningpod.com/Book of Baseball. And I just realized that I did not do hang on, everybody. Where is my stuff? What is going on here? Oh, there it is. I forgot to do my little spiel at the beginning of the episode, but that's okay. I'll make up for it later. So that's the new episode of the Book of Baseball. The website live stream. So I'm a little puzzled by this because so many of you asked for this. You guys kept, writing to us and, hey, it would be cool if the live stream, if we could listen to it directly from the website, yada yada yada. So a bunch of you asked for it. So we did it. We decided, okay, hey, we'll try it out for an episode or two. And that's what we did. And frankly, you guys, I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect was, but so many of you asked for it, and then the numbers just weren't there. So I don't know where the disconnect was. But we're We're putting that on hold. Maybe we'll try again at some point. But for now, the live stream is on Twitter/X and YouTube. But we did make it a little bit easier for you guys to get to. Rather than going to our link tree, you can now just go to eighth-inning-pod.com/livestream. And that'll take you to the stream that way. So anyways, you know what? I'm going to come back to this one. Within the this is just insane. Within the span of the last less than a week, Carson, we've lost some more people. One, we lost another legendary San Francisco Giant, Orlando Cepeda, which is sad and also kind of weird that he passed so soon after Willie Mays. And then we lost a couple of non-baseball, lost a couple of great actors. We lost Martin Mull, who most of you of a certain age will remember as the principal on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Great show, by the way. Some of you who are movie nerds like me will remember him as Colonel Mustard in the hilarious movie adaptation of Clue, which if you haven't seen, I would highly suggest. And then we also lost Donald Sutherland, who has long been one of my favorite actors. He's been in so many great. He was in A Time to Kill, great movie. He was in Backdraft, which is one of my favorite movies. But maybe most famously known, Carson, for Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah. I mean, just for me, Donald Sutherland was the President Snow in the Hunger Games.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Which is
forgot about that.
Which I think, I can't remember who posted it on social media, but it was either a director or somebody affiliated with the Hunger Games, put it in a really, really unique way when they said, we asked the kindest human in the world to play an evil dictator, and he did it flawlessly. Which I thought was a really cool tribute, because from everything I've seen, Donald Sutherland was the nicest guy, and a lot of people are also familiar with his son Kiefer Sutherland, of course, star of one of the most iconic shows with the most iconic just noises in general in 24.
Yep.
Also, if you're a show nerd like me, he was also in Designated Survivor, which is a absolutely phenomenal show. But yeah, just overall a really weird past few days, and obviously the one that's kind of weird, Orlando Cepeda, another fantastic New York, or not New York Giant, getting my sports confused, San Francisco Giant. But again, like you said, weird that it was kind of directly after Willie Mays that we've lost two great San Francisco Giants, two great actors. I'm not as familiar personally with Martin Mull. I remember him a little bit from.
That's a generational thing.
Yeah,
that's
I remember him a little bit because I was doing a little bit of research. He had like a little some guest appearances in 2.5 Men, and I remember him a little bit from that. But
I didn't know that. Huh. Yeah, Martin Mull. That's more of a generational thing. Yeah, two great actors, Orlando Cepeda. I'd have to look to be sure, but I'm fairly certain that Orlando Cepeda did in fact play for the Giants when they were still when they were still in New York, when they played at the Polo Grounds. So you did get your sports mixed up, but the Giants started in New York before they moved to San Francisco. So Orlando Cepeda might have played for the Giants before they moved, because him and Willie Mays were teammates for a long time. So but yeah, anyways, just a weird sort of like bang 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 right in a row. 3 like just weird how that happens sometimes. So obviously we send all our good thoughts and prayers and good vibes and whatnot to all the families and friends. Nope, still gonna put it off. I'm avoiding this because I know I'm gonna get. Last episode, Carson, I committed a almost unforgivable faux pas. I forgot actually. I forgot to shout out my NBA champion Boston Celtics. So to all my Boston peeps, I'm so sorry. I don't know, it just completely slipped my mind last time out. Obviously a huge congratulations to the Celtics on winning their 18th NBA championship, which is now the most ever. Take that, Lakers fans. And just a shout out to Boston in general, my hometown, and all my peeps who are still live in the 617, all my family and friends and everybody. I know most of you were at the parade last week. I hope you all had a frosty beverage for me. And Carson, I told you. So for those of you who after the Dallas Mavericks beat Carson's Timberwolves, Carson, you tweeted something about like, oh, I hope the Celtics take care of the Mavericks. And I responded by saying, don't worry, we got this. And well, they did. The Celtics took care of the team. They took out the team that took out your beloved T-Wolves.
Yes, and I am forever in the debt of Joe Mazzulla and
Yes.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for that one, because and the not to go off on a total tangent here, AJ, but I hate the concept of, oh, I hope the team that beats us wins, so at least we lost to the champions. Nah,
hell no.
Screw that. I wanted
Yeah.
the Celtics to put the foot on the throat of the Dallas Mavericks and choke them out.
And they did.
Like, screw that.
Yeah.
Screw that
Wait.
thought of concept.
People actually think that way? What's wrong with you?
People in the local market said, well, they were like, oh, I'm disappointed with the way the Mavericks play because it just makes the Timberwolves like that much worse by comparison. It's like, no, it just means that the Celtics are that much better of a team.
No, the rule is, the unspoken rule among sports fans is, if a team beats your team, you want that team to lose. Now, granted, I mean, I guess there are some exceptions to that, but I'm pretty sure Yankees fans, I'm pretty sure in 2004, Yankees fans did not, no, wait, that would be the opposite. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sure there are exceptions to that, but no, the team that beats your team, you want to see them lose in the next round. That's how it works. People are weird. Well, I will speak on behalf of the people of the great city of Boston and and thank you for your gratitude. And know that it may not last, because I'm telling you, man, within the next couple of years here, maybe next year, we're gonna get a Celtics T-Wolves finals.
Yeah, I am looking. I was
hoping for it this year.
I'm dreading.
I was hoping for it this year. I really was. I really thought it was going to be this year. Stupid Mavericks.
Yeah, but also
Mavericks.
speaking of the NBA, got to give a quick shout out to the Kentucky Wildcat fan and producer Tasha. Thanks for letting the Timberwolves draft Rob Dillingham. We're very grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can root for us now. It's okay.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. So nothing will ever sway producer Tasha away from her beloved Indiana Pacers. I'm pretty sure she's still mad at me and the Celtics and the city of Boston for dismantling her Pacers in the conference finals. So, yeah. But anyways, I'm obviously ecstatic that the Celtics won. It's been a while. 2008 seems like a long time ago. Um, you know, us Boston fans, we're used to a certain standard. I actually saw we'll move on for this in a minute here, I promise. But I actually saw something really funny, Carson. And everybody, I saw something really funny. It was a tweet. I think it was from Tom Caron, who, for those of you who don't know, is basically a living sports media legend in Boston. But Tom Caron tweeted something from the parade, a conversation he overheard where a kid, I don't know how old, but a kid, maybe like a teenager, I'm assuming, said to his parents, "Oh, let's go stand in the spot where we usually stand," meaning at the parade, at the Celtics parade. And that just really made me smile, because that made me think, wow, like there's a whole generation of kids in Boston that have grown up just being accustomed to Boston teams winning championships. And it made me laugh, and it made me smile, and it made me think. It was sort of a reminder of how lucky we've been over the last 20 years or so, because folks, I remember the dark times when Boston teams were just not very good. So anyways, that was just a nice little reminder of, oh yeah, we're spoiled. So all right, I've been avoiding this. I'll be honest with all of you. I debated whether or not to even, but I'm going to talk about it because I feel like it needs talking about. So last episode, we did our very best. We did our very best to pay tribute, as best we could, to pay tribute and honor the late great Willie Mays, and his career on the field, and everything he did on the field and everything he did off the field. And just we did our best, and hopefully we did right by Willie. But during said episode, we talked about obviously the game that the Major League Baseball played at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, where Willie started his career. So when we played this game at Rickwood, a tribute to Willie, and a tribute to the Negro Leagues, and a tribute to really just the history of baseball. And we also talked about how during their pregame coverage, Fox included Barry Bonds in their pregame coverage, and as per usual, he couldn't help but make an ass of himself, claiming that he would have hit a home run off of Satchel Paige. Yeah, right. I'd love to see that. Please, somebody who does like virtual recreations of stuff, please make that happen, because I want to see that. I'd love to see that. Satchel Paige would blow Bonds away at the plate, but that's neither here nor there. Seeing Barry Bonds being part of the pregame coverage of a night that was supposed to be a tribute to Willie Mays and the Negro Leagues, how would you put it, Carson? I took issue with the fact that Bonds was on the pregame coverage.
Yeah, you had a very strong reaction to his inclusion.
Yes, because to me, having Barry Bonds on the pregame coverage of a historic game in a historic place, honoring the Negro Leagues and honoring one of the best players to ever play the game of baseball in Willie Mays, it just felt wrong, given Barry Bonds's extremely checkered past, his blatant use of steroids, his blatant cheating, his blatant disregard for the game of baseball, and then topped it all off by blatantly and repeatedly lying about it. Oh, I never did it, yada yada yada. And and then obviously the whole Balco case and the federal indictment and everything that went with that. He's a disgrace. He's a slime ball. And I think that was a huge mistake by Fox. However, unsurprisingly, some of you agreed with me and some of you didn't, but that's part of why we do this, is to have thought-provoking dialogue and conversations about this kind of stuff. Some of you agreed, some of you didn't, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But some of you, not a lot, there were a few of you who sort of went the other direction, and they some of you took issue with what I said, and some of you accused me of saying, took my words and twisted them into I was saying that Barry Bonds shouldn't have been at the game at all. No, that's not what I said. That's not. I wasn't even trying to. I wasn't even trying to infer that. I wasn't trying to imply that he shouldn't have been, at the game at all. So I apologize if that's, if that's how it came across. I'm obviously, just despite everything, yes, he should have been at the game. I have no problem with him being at the game, because of obviously Willie Mays was his godfather. His father Bobby Bonds and Willie were teammates and friends. No, I have no issue with him being at the game. I just thought having him on the pregame show and giving him the airtime, and putting his face on TV, I just thought that was a mistake, and I thought it was in poor taste, given that the game at Rickwood had unfortunately turned into a tribute to Willie Mays, because Willie passed away shortly before the game. So, anyways, I just wanted to clear that up. Carson, I think we both agree that 100% Barry Bonds should have been at the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I also made the case and played a little bit of devil's advocate to
Yes.
AJ's points that it would have felt wrong not to have him be a part of the pregame, considering he has Willie Mays' godson.
Right.
It only made sense. But again,
which is a valid point.
Exactly. And like AJ said, for the most, and one of the things that I appreciate about our fans a lot of times is that, even if they disagree with our takes and they email in, a majority of them, most of our fans are very respectful about how they go about it. Like, you guys give us your take. And that's one of the things that we love about the show, is that, AJ and I are going to disagree from time to time. And, there are some of you who think that we agree too much, and some of that criticism might be a little bit fair, but, and there
ridiculous.
There are some of you out there who are going to disagree with both of us, with one of us, but
right.
That's one of the things that make our show great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyways, I just sort of wanted to adjust that, because, that is something that, and Carson's right. Most of you, in fact, I would say the majority of you, even when you disagree with us, you guys are respectful. You don't. And honestly, and I think we've talked about this before. Honestly, anytime we get any kind of emails or messages that are disrespectful in any way, guess what? Automatic auto delete, insta deleted. So, don't even waste your time. But anyways, Yeah, I thought that needed addressing. Because I didn't want anyone to think that I was in any way saying, oh, Barry Bonds shouldn't have even been at the game. Not at all. I think that would have been disrespectful to Willie's memory. So all right. Anyways, moving on. Now that we've sort of heavy stuff out of the way, as our come on, there we go. Just waiting for the banner to update. The Philadelphia Phillies, Carson. We've talked a lot about them this year, understandably so. One of the best teams in baseball. Basically from the get-go. Still, I believe, holding on to the best record in the National League. Pretty much a lock to win the NL East, with the Braves being so shorthanded. But now the Phillies are dealing with some injury issues of their own. Both Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber slated to miss at least 10 days. Somewhat silver lining. It sounds like, according to team sources, that they both avoided significant injuries. Initial prognosis for Harper, a low-grade hamstring strain. And Schwarber diagnosed with a mild, I don't know how a groin strain can be mild, but a mild groin strain. Not great news for the Phillies. Granted, it sounds like they've both avoided major issues, but this has got to have Philly fans white knuckling a little bit.
Yeah, and as you know, as they should, because a lot of times in baseball, sometimes these minor injuries can turn into things that are a little bit bigger. I mean, for example, Kyle Tucker for the Astros, everybody kind of thought that he might, that okay, 10 day gets put on the 10-day IL, and odds are, initially they thought he was going to come back pretty quickly, but guess what? He's still on the 10-day IL and just progressed back to hitting again on Thursday. So,
yeah,
it's the world of baseball is a strange world, especially with injuries. Dynamics can change. Teams can easily rise or fall depending on their health in large part. But I think the Phillies in general will be okay. I think they've got enough depth to kind of weather the storm. Now, do I think that they're going to go out and be a super team? No, but I think they've got enough depth to kind of weather the storm. They've still got a commanding lead right now in the NL East over the Braves, who have not been able to really take advantage. Who really have not been able to take advantage of these injuries for the Phillies. So I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, no, this relax, Philly fans. Take a deep breath. The sky is not falling. Whenever we talk about the Red Sox or Boston teams, I always say, it's okay, Boston fans, don't jump off the Tobin Bridge. But having never been to Philly. Wait, no, I have been to Philly. I'm just kidding. I don't know what the Philly equivalent of that would be. I don't know. Something about the Liberty Bell. I don't know. But anyways, yes. The Phillies are still 7.5 games up in the NL East on the Braves. They have gone 5-5 over their last 10. So, but yeah, despite the fact that Schwarber and Harper seem to have avoided significant injuries for now, I don't know, man. I think if you're the Phillies, if I'm Phillies manager Rob Thompson, Carson, I'm wrapping these guys in bubble wrap until after the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing.
Why risk it?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing too that's going to be that I'm honestly surprised that the concept of load management has not made its
Mm,
way into Major League Baseball. I am
mhm.
very surprised, but also very happy about that. Um,
Yeah.
because at a certain point, I would think that if you're and maybe it's a thing that'll become more and more if like honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the pitching trend continues the way that
Mhm,
it's been. If we see a little bit more load management, guys getting their start skipped for for
mhm.
a period of time during before a little bit before the All-Star break or a little bit before the postseason starts, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if teams start kind of putting together shells of their current lineups and given some of these maybe younger guys or some of the veterans that are on the bench a little bit more playing time.
Yeah. Especially because I mean the last thing you want to do is so it sounds like let's see. So Harper could be activated as soon as July 9th, and the All-Star game about a week or so, a little less than a week or so before the All-Star game. And Schwarber, Phillies manager Rob Thompson said both players could return within 2 weeks. Thompson said there's a good chance they'll come back before the All-Star break. But having said that, we want to make sure they're completely healed. Yeah, so see, Rob Thompson's thinking the same way. Just use the All-Star break as sort of a buffer. That would give both guys 10 more days to make sure they're good to go, and maybe even more importantly than that, like we're talking about, because all it takes is, especially with a hamstring, all it takes is one little tweak and a minor hamstring injury. 10 days on the IL can turn into 45.
Yeah, which would be not good at all. Like
No.
you, especially in baseball, it feels like you got to really take care of these injuries, make sure that everybody's at 100% before they come back.
Yep. And if they lose, I mean, if the Phillies lose Harper or Schwarber, for any, considerable amount of time, then the sky might be falling in Philly. But anyways, it's not for now, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Obviously for Phillies fans, and the rest of the National League. Um, yeah, that would be bad. So offense. So we always talk about how come the playoffs, pitching and defense. Pitching and defense win championships. But to get there, you got to score. I mean, the other part of winning games, obviously, is scoring runs. But so far in 2024, Carson, Major League Baseball offenses have been, well, they've been offensive, or offensive, I should say. So far in 2024, the league batting average. So this is league wide. This is all teams. This is every team. All team batting averages averaged into another average. So far in 2024, the league batting average is a mediocre 241. The league's average slugging percentage is only 390. But wait, there's more. So we're about, like we mentioned, we're roughly halfway through the season. MLB offenses are on pace for about 39,000 hits combined. That would be 1,400 fewer than last year. They're on pace to score about 21,000 runs. That's about 1,300 fewer than last year. 5,000 home runs, which would be 800 fewer than last year, and 7,000, about 7,300 doubles, give or take. That would be 600 fewer than last year. Carson, if this pace continues, we would end up with the fewest doubles in a season since 1993, the fewest home runs since 2015, the fewest hits per game in a full season since 1968. This is just bad. or as Charles, as good old Chuck would say, it's terrible.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Terrible.
Yeah, it's not great. Definitely. Obviously this has been, I think, um one of the main complaints that I hear from friends and family who aren't really into baseball is that they hate the low scoring defensive games, and it's like, this year isn't exactly helping with that. I mean, sure, there have been some games that have been high scoring, but in retrospect, and again, we're baseball geeks, so I like me a good pitching duel. Always have,
Oh,
always will.
absolutely.
But for casual baseball fans, for a lot of times they're used to sports that, even for casual sports fans, they're used to sports that are a little bit higher scoring, like football, or hockey. A lot of times is a little bit higher scoring, especially since they kind of changed the width of the net and things. They're not really basketball. They're not really used to sports where defense truly does win championships.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, as a hardcore baseball geek, yeah, I love me. Give me a 2-0, 3-2, 1-0, 4-3-2-1 type game. Give me that any day of the week over, these games that end up like 10-6 or 10-8 or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying those games can't be exciting, but you make a really good point about casual fans. Because what draws casual fans to not just to baseball, but what draws casual fans to any sport? It's scoring and offense. That's why soccer doesn't really have casual fans, because soccer is so low scoring. Although to me, again, that's one of the most exciting parts. That's one of the most exciting parts about soccer is the fact that one play, one goal can change the whole complexion of the game. Not so much in these other sports, but I guess the other question, I mean, the question about this is what the heck is going on with offenses in baseball? I mean, we're talking about the fewest hits per game in a full season in more than 50 years. Now maybe the bats will heat up as the weather heats up, maybe. But the big question about this, Carson, is what gives?
Yeah, I mean,
I have my own thought. I have my own theory on this, but I'm really curious. What you think is going on here.
Yeah, I honestly, I wish I had a concrete answer, a concrete theory, but I really don't know if I do. I don't know if it's something where guys are just swinging with more tennis rackets than in years past, and or if pitchers are getting that much better. Maybe it comes down to these younger pitchers are coming up into the systems, and in youth baseball already firing pretty fast pitches, and maybe it's just about hitters not being able to catch up. I really don't know if I have a concrete explanation as to why this is happening.
I mean, I don't think there is. I don't think there's one. Like we've been talking about the injuries, the like ridiculous amount of injuries to pitchers this year. We talked about how there's not one thing you can point to. I think it's the same thing with this. I don't think there's one definitive thing you can point to. I think it's a bunch of things. I mean, that's a really good point about the pitchers. You've got these pitchers coming up through the ranks who are throwing harder, and with more spin and with more command than ever before. And pitchers have analytics on their side now. Analytics has, for better or worse, analytics has sort of invaded, not just baseball, but all sports. But these pitchers, my point is about the analytics. Pitchers now know which pitches to throw to which batters and in which situation. And if they execute those pitches, even the best hitters are going to struggle to put the ball in play.
Yeah, that's very true for sure.
You might have the so-called baseball traditionalists. I hate that term so much. Who get those analytics out of my baseball. No, I mean the analytics are, again, it's better for better or worse, no matter where you come down on it. But analytics are here, folks, and they're here to stay in baseball and in every other sport. It's just the time we live in. But I mean, sure, I guess there could be other factors, like I mentioned, the weather. Maybe it's the baseballs, because we know MLB has been they've been fiddling with the baseballs. But it just, to me, it feels like there's no way that it's coincidence that this offensive downturn is happening in what is essentially the golden age of pitching analytics.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up some good points. Analytics have become a huge part of the game, and again, analytics, it's not even just something we're seeing in baseball. It's also something we're seeing across sports. Like the coaching aspect of coaches is being taken away, and maybe that has something to do with it, where analytics are telling a batter, oh, you need to change this about your stance because it's going to give you a 9.625% chance of hitting this pitch better. And then guys go to make these adjustments to their swings, and then it's just not working. So then they got to try and revert back, maybe in some cases, or change it up, tweak it up again. So maybe that has something to do with it too.
Yeah. That's a really good point about coaches. Not so much in baseball, but I think football is probably the best example of where analytics are sort of taking the reins out of the coach's hands to an extent. Because how many times in football do we see, coaches make, well, shall we say, questionable play calls, because the analytics say, oh, even though it's 4th and 4 and you're on your own 30-yard line, the analytics say you should go for it, or vice versa. Like, we've seen that so many times. I know this is a sore spot for Detroit Lions fans, but that's the best example I could think of. We don't really see that all too much in baseball, but I mean, we might start seeing more of it. Because analytics is the, well, I mean, I was going to say the wave of the future, but analytics is the wave of the present. So, just a really, really fascinating that this offensive sort of drop off is happening, as analytics become more and more, prevalent in sports and in baseball. So, yeah, just really interesting, really, really interesting, and definitely something we'll keep an eye on. All right, so we are, as we mentioned, we're halfway to the halfway through the season, give or take, and that means, Carson, we are approaching one of our favorite dates on the baseball calendar, the trade deadline.
Oh, the most wonderful time of the year! I can't wait.
Yeah. And with the trade deadline fast approaching, folks, comes the wonderful little nuggets of trade rumors. And this year is no different. Especially with some teams that are, we've got teams that are in a better position than they thought they would be. We've got teams that are in a worse position than they thought they would be. One of the teams that is one of the teams that is right about where they should be, typically speaking, as the Yankees. And it sounds like, so this says that the Yankees and the Rangers have been sniffing around the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs, who are currently in last place in the NL Central, which I don't even know how that happened, because it wasn't long ago that the Cubs seemed like they were a threat to win the division. But the name that's coming up the most, Carson, if the Cubs do in fact end up selling at the deadline, is Cody Bellinger.
Yeah. This, and I mean, poor Cody Bellinger has to be thinking about, holy crap, what did I do to myself? Shout out to Scott Boras once again for absolutely ruining the lives of men.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the Cubs, I think, are going to be, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that they're going to sell. It's just about who is it that they're going to sell, because this team we thought was going to be in contention for the NL Central based on what, after last year we were kind of looking at them like, okay, like they didn't quite get there, but they're so close. Like they just need maybe another piece here, another piece there, and they're ready to go. But man, this team has been bad.
And they were for the first part of the season. They were right there.
Yeah, exactly. They were absolutely right there. And I mean, Cody Bellinger too is one of those guys where I think he would be the first person to admit that his production is not nearly where he would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
His second year in Chicago, his numbers are all down across the board. His OPS is down 140 points, 748 this season compared to 881 last season. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to be able to fetch for him on the market, but a contending team, I think, could certainly take a shot at him. As far as where he could go, that I think is still up in the air. It kind of depends on, I think it depends on a few different things. Obviously, I think some top contending teams will probably come sniffing around. I think the Yankees are probably going to come sniffing around after him. Which, boy, wouldn't that be a weird sight to see a former Dodger playing for the Yankees. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe like a Texas Rangers or a Houston Astros come sniffing after him to try and give their lineup just that little bit of extra boost to try and get themselves back in contention. But things are going to be very interesting around. It's going to be Cody Bellinger. It's going to be Bellinger watch for this trade.
Yeah. Last year was Ohtani watch. This year is going to be Bellinger watch. And also Pete Alonso watch. Bellinger to the Yankees, as much as I hate to admit that. Bellinger could fill in nicely for New York because Bellinger can play first base. Bellinger could fit in nicely at first base for the Yankees.
Yeah, certainly could. I mean, obviously, you've also got Anthony Rizzo occupying that spot too. But
I mean, with Rizzo sounds like Rizzo's going to be out for a while.
Yeah, exactly. That's the caveat of, but
yeah, after his whatever the hell, I don't even know if I can call that base running. I don't know what the heck that was. But yeah, I mean, Bellinger could slot in for the Yankees. You mentioned the Rangers and the Astros. I mean, the Astros are back to 500, unfortunately. I mean, I guess we all kind of saw that coming, but the Astros and Rangers, they've got some work to do between now and the deadline to even be in a position to be buying. Yeah, geez. Yeah, the Rangers. Oof. Talk about World Series hangover. The other two big names that have been floating around, both from Toronto, Bo Bichette. I mean, the Blue Jays they're not officially out of it, but they might as well officially be out of it. Carson, the Blue Jays have been a train wreck this year.
Yeah, that the train north of the border has got logged in maple syrup and has completely stopped in the middle of the city. My goodness. And honestly, AJ, this is the team that I think midway through the season I'm the most disappointed in.
Yeah.
You have all that talent. And you're going to be in the bottom of the AL East, 14 and a half games back with guys like Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Jose Barrios. Like, you have all this talent on this team, and you're going to be that far back. It's just such a disappointment. I'm sure for Blue Jays fans everywhere, too.
I mean, just for Canada in general, seeing as the Blue Jays are the only team in Canada, they're sort of, they're like Canada's team.
Hasn't Canada been through enough sports heartbreak in the last month?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much of Canada outside of Edmonton we're rooting for the Oilers.
Shout out to the Florida Panthers, by the way.
Ugh. Yeah, sure. I have to admit, I took probably more joy than I should have in the fact that it quite literally rained on the Panthers parade. Geez, who thought having a parade in Florida in June was a bad idea? It's not like it rains every freaking day down there this time of year or ever. Anyways, yeah, Bo Bichette. Speaking of bold predictions, Bo Bichette will not be a Toronto Blue Jay after the deadline. The Blue Jays are going to be in full on sell mode, mostly because I don't see a way for them back into this thing, and also, Bichette and Vladdy are only under club control through next year. So if they don't move them soon, they're going to end up getting precisely nothing in return for these guys. Yeah, Bichette, I think definitely moves, especially considering apparently he's been answering questions, and basically saying that he was quoted as saying they asked him if he thought if he would be surprised if he removed at the deadline, and Bichette answered, quote, "No, not surprised at all." Yeah, that's not good. Vladdy has said recently expressed that he would, quote, "be happy to help any team, even if it was the divisional rival Yankees. Please, God, no." I'm sold on. I think Bo Bichette is gone at the deadline. I'm not quite sold on Vladdy, but Vladdy hasn't quite lived up to his lofty accomplishments of 2021.
Yeah, it's
so
I'm in the same boat as you. I think Bo Bichette is because I guess I'm in the same boat, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it flipped and it was Vladdy that was gone and Bo Bichette that stayed.
Okay, interesting.
Solely from a production standpoint, because if you take a look at the two of them, one of them is performing pretty well above what they did last year. The other is not. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is having a much better season than he did last season, whereas Bo Bichette has fallen off the face of the earth and landed in the Atlantic Ocean trying to swim to America. Like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is, again, I hate to focus on OPS, but 788 last season to 825 this season. I think, if you have that much of a better of a production in a year where your team, let's be honest, is utter crap, I think that could fetch a lot more on the market, and you could get a little bit more valuable assets than Bo Bichette, whose OPS last season was at an 814. So far this season is at a 619.
Ouch.
So I think that right now, if I were the Blue Jays, I would dangle the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. carrot at the very least to see what kind of value I could get in addition to Bo Bichette. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is both of them are gone. Maybe that happens too. That's certainly possible. But
so you think
right now, I would say I would say right now I would trade Vladdy before I traded Bo Bichette.
You think Vladdy's a more tempting trade chip, as it were?
I do. Yeah.
I'd agree with that. Hello, Vlad Jr. Yes, this is Seattle Mariners on line 1.
No. Take the call from the Twins on line 2.
That's all right. The Mariners are going to go after Pete Alonso. Oh man, J-Rod and Pete Alonso in the same lineup, and Jorge Polanco. Yes, please.
I don't know. The Mets are kind of surging a little bit. Maybe
that's
they take
true.
them off the market again.
Alonso may not be on the market this time around.
AJ, I swear, Pete Alonso in the trade market is the Ross and Rachel of Major League Baseball. Will they, won't they?
They were on a break.
Like, my goodness, every year we hear, Pete Alonso might get traded. Pete Alonso might get traded, and then nothing happens. I feel the same way with Pete Alonso as I did watching Friends. Just come on, make a decision one way or another already.
Yeah, that is a good point about Pete Alonso. And I mean, who knows if the Mets are surging, and if the Mets are in the right, if the Mets are in a good spot, I mean, they'd be crazy to trade Pete Alonso, especially considering they're going to sign Juan Soto this winter. I mean, like Pete Alonso and Juan Soto in the same lineup. Hello, just give him the
Francisco Lindor.
Or just give him the trophy. Yeah, I said it. Juan Soto is not going to be a New York Yankee next year. Sorry, Yankees. Sorry, not sorry, Yankees fans. Other names being floated. I mean, we've all heard of Luis Robert Jr. That name's been floated. Jazz Chisholm Jr., especially now that the Marlins are, where they're at. I mean, the Marlins and the White Sox are both obviously going to be selling at this deadline. I mean, the Marlins already traded Luis Ariz. The other name for the White Sox is Garrett. Is it Crockett? It's got to be Crockett.
I believe it is Crockett, but
there's no name. There's no way the dude's last name was pronounced Crochet, because that would be hilarious.
I'm doing a little real-time research presented by Printer Dudes currently to
Garrett Crochet. Yeah, no.
It is indeed Crochet, according to Baseball.
Oh, really? Oh, man.
Yeah, it is indeed Crochet, according to Baseball Reference.
That's hilarious. Sounds more like a hockey player than a baseball player.
I think Garrett Crochet for the White Sox. I think Eric Fetty. It would not surprise me to see him potentially on the block.
Yep. Michael Kopech.
Yep.
That's another one. Boy, the White Sox are just going to clean house.
As they should.
As they should. Yes, you're right. So we've talked about some of the players that'll be on the move. I mean, if you look at the standings, and this is really interesting, and I don't really remember this happening anytime in recent memory. If you look at the standings, which I'm actually going to do right now. Thank you, the Athletic app. I think this might be the most used app on my phone.
Hey, we say it all the time. Shout out to the Athletic.
I don't know. It's probably a tie between the Athletic app and the Twitter app.
Yeah.
I use both of those quite a bit.
I should use Twitter so much less.
No, ditto. But yeah, so if you look at the standings, and we'll get to the playoff race here more in a minute. But if you look at the standings, American League wild card, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7. I mean, some of these are a little. There are 7 teams in the American League that are less than 10 games out of that last wild card spot. Now, granted, one of those teams is the Angels, so I mean, we could basically just scratch them off. But the Red Sox, the Astros, the Rays, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, and the Rangers are all within 8 games of that last wild card spot with half the season to go. Now, I'm not saying all of those teams are going to be in the mix. But if you're a GM and you start thinking about the trade deadline and you look at the standings and you go, well, hell, we're only 6.5 games out of a playoff spot. We're not gonna we're not gonna trade away our best players. We're gonna try to, which is gonna create a problem. It's gonna create a supply and demand problem, or it could create a supply and demand problem on the trade market. And then over in the National League, oh man. Wow. Okay. So you thought the American League was crazy? Get ready for this.
National League is nuts.
Every team in the National League, except for the Marlins and the Rockies, surprise, surprise, the Mets, Diamondbacks, Pirates, Giants, Nationals, Reds, Cubs are all within 4 games of the last wild card spot in the National League. Holy crap.
Insane. Yeah. And like you said, this
wow.
I very much predict this trade deadline to be a seller's market, simply because of the parity and how close so many teams are to even just a wild card spot. Like this, This trade deadline will be a seller's market. Sellers are going to be able to ask for some pretty high prices and probably going to be able to get them because there are so many teams that are still in the mix. I can't, in recent recollection, remember this many teams that are in single-digit games away from a wild card spot.
No.
So if I'm a Blue Jays fan, for example, and I know that there's a potential for my team to just decide to rebuild and clean house, I'm licking my chops thinking about what kind of potential prospects and what kind of haul we can get for some of these guys. Same thing with the White Sox. You've got Garrett Crochet, as we just recently learned it's properly pronounced, who is currently a Cy Young candidate. Can you imagine what they could potentially get for him on the open market? And I mean, you talked about potentially scratching the Angels off. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. So we can't even really scratch them off yet. They're only 1 game away from the Rangers, who are on a 6-game losing streak right now. So there is so much there is so much room for this race to change even between now and the deadline that I don't even know if we can predictably say for a lot of these teams, oh, this team's going to be a seller. This team's going to be a buyer. I don't know that we can necessarily say that.
And normally by this point of the season, normally you can get a pretty good handle on, okay, these teams are going to be buyers, these teams are going to be sellers. But this year it's just we just don't know. So which is insane. I mean, since we're basically already talking about it, let's shift focus here a little bit and talk about the standings in the playoff race. I mean, we just kind of touched on it. The American League, there's a little more distance, but the National League, holy crap, all but 2 teams within 4 games of a wild card spot. So in the American League, if the season ended today, the playoff picture would look as thus. The Guardians would clinch the top seed in the American League. The Orioles would be the 2 seed. My Mariners would be the 3 seed. Fuck yeah. Stay right there, Mariners. Right there. Stay in that top 3, please. Speaking of teams who are going to be buying and aggressive at the deadline.
As they should be.
Damn right. And they've Like they've said it repeatedly. So put your money where your mouth is, Jerry. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, the Guardians, the Orioles, and the Mariners. American League wildcard teams, Yankees. Yankees in the wild card. Yankees, Carson's Twins, and then the Royals round out as the 6th seed. And we mentioned the teams that are on the outside, but only just. So if the season ended today, the American League playoff matchups in the wild card round, the Mariners would host the Royals. And I'm sorry, Carson and the rest of Minnesota, but your Twins would be facing the Yankees if the season ended today. And we all know the history there.
Sounds like we got to win the division. That's what that sounds like to me. But I mean, first and foremost, as much as I don't like to compliment my in-division rivals, shout out to the AL Central. What a turnaround this division has had from last year to now, where it was the Twins and then everybody else in the AL Central. And even then, the Twins didn't win that division by nearly as much as they probably should have. But now this year we've got the Guardians leading the division. We've got 2 out of the 3 wild card spots represented, with Detroit still seemingly not that far away. Like the AL Central has had a nice little turnaround.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, probably not for Twins fans, but it's pretty, as a outside observer, it's pretty cool to see the Royals be good again after the years they've had recently. How about the Cleveland Guardians, man? God, I mean, damn. Like, actually, I was gonna talk about their manager, but I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're gonna talk about him later. But yeah, that's how the American League would shake out. In the National League, which, again, every team in the National League, all but 2 teams are within 4 games of a wild card spot. But if things wrapped up today, Phillies would be the 1 seed, Dodgers would be the 2 seed, Brewers at 3, Braves at 4, Padres at 5, and the St. Louis Cardinals at 6, which wasn't very long ago, Carson, that nobody thought the Cardinals would be anywhere near a playoff spot, but they seem to have, at least for now, turned it around, which I know makes producer Tasha smile, being a Cardinals fan. So wild card matchups, the Brewers would host the Cardinals in a good old-fashioned NL Central showdown, and the Braves would host the Padres. How about the Padres on a 5-game win streak and winners of 9 of their last 10? I don't think there's a hotter team in baseball right now.
Yeah, they're absolutely on a tear.
Wow.
Shout out to Jackson Merrill, who has been absolutely on fire from the plate so far. Producer Tasha, though, I got a bone to pick with your Cardinals because they couldn't have done this last year when I had picked them to win the World Series. Really, they had to suck last year, and now this year they decided to go into a wild card spot. Not to quote Dana Carvey as church lady. Well, isn't that special? That's right. I made a Dana Carvey. That's right. I made a Dana Carvey reference. As a 25-year-old, I made a Dana Carvey reference.
Nice. I'm impressed. Last year when the Cardinals were, you said the Cardinals was in it last year. Nope, not gonna do it. Since we're making Dana Carvey references. And why didn't they do it last year? Well, could it be Satan? All right. That's enough of that. No, Dana Carvey's a friggin' genius. Anyways. But yeah, so that's where things stand. And I can't get over the Padres. And also, hey, Padres, why couldn't you do this 2 years ago when I picked you to go to the World Series? What the? Oh, well. You know what? I'm happy for the Padres, especially since former Red Sox broadcaster Don Orsillo is now the Padres. So you know what? I'm pretty happy for Don and the Padres to be in this position. So yeah, that's where things stand with the playoff race. Again, but these wild card races are going to be down. The wild card races are going to be wild, probably right down to the wire. Carson mentioned the Angels on a 6-game winning streak. Let's take a real quick peek at the division standings here. Yeah, I mean the Angels are only 5 games behind they're 9.5 games behind the Mariners in the AL West, and only 5 games behind the second place Astros. So, that's pretty wild. And it's really it's kind of interesting to me that these division races, Carson, are so tight. When I mean the wild card races are tight because when you look at the divisions, I mean the Phillies are up 7.5 on the Braves, the Brewers are up 6.5 on the Cardinals, the Dodgers are up 7.5 on the Padres. The closest division race is the AL East. The Orioles are only up a game on the Yankees. The Guardians are up 7 on the Twins, and the Mariners are up 4.5 on the Astros. So not a whole heck of a lot of close division races, which further supports the idea that adding that third wild card, yeah, that was a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Creates for, it creates for a little more interesting potential matchups, obviously, come postseason time, but it creates a little bit more desperation for some of those teams that initially thought they might be out of it, but now there's an extra spot you can go up and get.
Yep, and it makes the trade deadline that much more exciting. So, all right, so yeah, if any of you have listened to the show with any regularity, you know that we are in the business of making bold predictions. So, I thought, Carson, that we would each make one bold prediction for the second half of the season.
Ooh, a bold prediction for the second half. Okay. Let me take a look. See what team I want to target here. You know what? Let's go with, I mean, this. No, you know what? Let's really make things weird. They are 3.5 games back. I think the Cincinnati Reds take a wild card spot.
Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. Let's see. They're 5 games, 39 and 44, 3.5 games out. What's the NL Central look like here? Brewers are 6.5 up on the. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe even make a run at the division, but they're 10 games out right now. That feels like a lot. What about the Cubs? Do we think the Cubs make the playoffs?
No.
You don't think so?
No. No, I think I think the Cubbies should go into the Cubs are one of those teams like, yeah, they're 4 games out, but they don't look like the same team.
No, they've been pretty inconsistent. Yeah. All right.
The baseball gods saw what Craig Counsell did and said, "Your team will not be good this year."
Hey, traitor.
Shame.
Yeah, I guess that's what you get for jumping ship to a division rival. Come on, Craig. Why couldn't you have just taken the Mets job? Like, you had to go to Chicago. You had to go to the Cubs. All right, let's see here. Bold prediction. I mean, I could go with. I don't know how bold that is. I think my Red Sox make the playoffs. I don't know how bold that is though, considering how they've been. I mean, I know they've lost 2 in a row, but considering how they've been playing lately, in spite of their greedy sleazeball owner basically saying he doesn't give a damn. Which, oh, by the way, I guarantee, I had this thought the other day. I'm pretty sure, Carson, the Red Sox put John Henry's interview up on the bulletin board in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they looked at that and like, oh, you don't care about spending to make us better? Okay, watch this. Anyways, I thought about that the other day. Damn, bold prediction. You know what? I don't think, and I know the irony here. The irony is not lost on me, and I can hear you all. I hear you all out there. I don't think either one of last year's World Series teams, the Rangers or the D-backs, I don't think either one of them make the playoffs.
I don't think so either.
More so the Rangers, because the Rangers have just been, wow. Dumpster fire comes to mind. I mean, yeah, the Diamondbacks are only 2.5 out of a wild card spot, but the Diamondbacks, talk about inconsistent. They have been all over the place this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on down there in the desert, like, because they essentially have the same team as they did last year. And I know they've had some injury issues. But I don't think either one of last year's World Series teams makes the playoffs this year. I don't see it. All right. Those are our bold predictions for the second half of the season. Bookmark this episode and we'll see how those pan out. If they don't pan out, by the way, don't at us. Let's do a little mid-season awards. Let's hand out some MVPs, some Cy Youngs, and some Rookie of the Year. Let's just start in the American League. American League MVP for you, Carson.
Yeah, American League MVP for me, at least right now. There's a couple of different guys that I think you could potentially give this to, but I'm going to give it to Gunnar Henderson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Ditto. Yeah. I've seen first of all, I've seen people say Juan Soto. Just come on. Be serious. No, I think Gunnar Henderson, 100%. The only if I had an MVP vote, I'm pretty sold on Gunnar Henderson. The only other player I might consider placing that vote for would be Bobby Witt Jr. Because he's been unbelievable this year, and he is a huge part of why the Royals are where they're at. National League MVP.
This is the one where AJ is probably not going to like who I say, but
here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, he may have shifted to the other side of the city of Los Angeles, but he is still an MVP candidate, and he will go back to back in different leagues like Luis Ariz did with the batting title, except this time it is with the MVP, your National League MVP of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ladies and gentlemen, Shohei Ohtani.
Really going on a limb there. I mean, yeah, I guess.
He's hitting 322 right now. Come on.
I wonder if he bet on himself to win MVP.
Oh, hey, now he was cleared. Come on now.
You can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes. Cleared. Still not buying it. Yeah, I mean, he is having a ridiculous season. And that brings me back to my old conundrum about MVP awards. If you take Shohei Ohtani off that Dodgers team, guess what? They still win 100 games. You know what? My NL MVP right now, Bryce Harper.
Hmm.
If you take Bryce Harper off that Phillies team, and unfortunately, as we talked about earlier, they're about to learn what life is like without Bryce Harper for a little bit. And I do think they'll be fine as long as he doesn't miss any significant amount of time. But yeah, I think I'd go Bryce Harper. Probably with an honorable mention / runner up to a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Freddie Freeman. Yeah, I think Freddie Freeman's having himself quite a year, even though it's being completely overshadowed by Mr. Parlay himself, Shohei Ohtani. But anyways, yeah, those are MVPs. American League Cy Young winner as of this moment.
I made you not very happy with my last one. I'm gonna hopefully hopefully make you very happy with this one because Tanner Houck.
Hell yeah.
Red Sox.
I mean, he won't because of various reasons. I don't think he'll actually win it. He should. Bias aside, I think he's the most deserving. I think he's had an unbelievable year. Speaking of bias, though, man, it's so hard to ignore Tarek Skubal and Corbin Burns and Garrett Crochet and Seth Lugo, even with the Royals. I think I'm going Logan Gilbert. He's had, I mean, all the Mariners pitching has been ridiculous, but some of the usual suspects, Luis Castillo, he struggled a little bit. George Kirby has been, but Logan Gilbert's been pretty consistent. When the Mariners, when they've scuffled a little bit this year and they've needed a win, Logan Gilbert's gone out there and gotten the job done. So, National League Cy Young.
Yeah, National League Cy Young. Give me a Ranger Suarez.
I like it. Speaking of outstanding pitching, Phillies. I'll go with Ranger Suarez's teammate. Give me Zach Wheeler.
Zach Wheeler would have been my pick a little bit earlier in the season, but he's starting to trend downward
He's struggled a bit. Yeah.
Just a hair.
He has. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those guys. As much as it pains me to say this, I think Chris Sale has to be in the conversation too.
Absolutely, he does. Well deserving of being in that conversation.
As the great Bob Lobel used to say, geez, why can't the Red Sox get players like that? By the way, bonus points if any of you, I know some of you know who Bob Lobel is. Carson, do you know? Yeah, Carson knows who Bob Lobel is.
Of course.
Okay. Because I know some people are going, who? I get it. He's a Boston guy, but all right. AL Rookie of the Year.
This one, I'm going back and forth with this one, and this one is probably going to make AJ not very happy with me again, despite the fact that he's slumped a little bit as of late. I'm hard pressed not to give it to Luis Gil.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, all right, whatever. He's having a good year. He really is, actually. All hatred of the Yankees aside, yes, he is having a good year. And as I resist the urge to throw up in my mouth as I say this, he is just I wouldn't like it, but he is deserving of Rookie of the Year, as much as it kills me to say that. Boy, so many. You've got just on my Red Sox alone, Wilyer Abreu, Ceddanne Rafaela, got Mason Miller with the A's, Wyatt Langford with the Rangers. I don't know though. I think I've got to go Colton Cowser of the Orioles. Colton Cowser is having himself one heck of a season. National League Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, this one again. I've been going back and forth between a few different guys, but I was doing a little bit of research and reading some ESPN midseason awards to kind of give myself an idea. AJ, how about Brian Hudson of the Milwaukee Brewers?
Yeah.
My goodness, is he having a phenomenal season, and he's 27.
Yep. Yeah, he is. He's having a heck of a year. Is that your pick?
That is my pick.
That's a hell of a pick. It wasn't very long ago that I would have said slam dunk Shota Imanaga, but he's scuffled a bit as of late. Some people, I've heard people say Paul Skeens, but maybe he's not going to play a full season this season. So I don't know. I don't even know if he's eligible, to be honest, but I've heard people say Paul Skeens. Nope. I'm going with the center fielder for the San Diego Padres, one Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, very, very well deserved him. Very well deserved for him as well.
Yeah, Jackson Merrill is having a heck of a season, which coincidentally, we're going to talk about here in just a moment as we change gears into the bottom of the ninth and play some buy. Oh, well, look at this. What a coincidence. Buy or sell that Jackson Merrill is the hottest hitter in baseball right now.
I mean, I think I have to buy it. He's been absolutely hitting the cover off the ball as of late, and he's been a huge part of why the Padres are as successful right now as they are. I mean, as we speak, he is 3 for 3 in the game against the Red Sox, even though the rest of the offense ain't doing too hot. So I think he has to be considered that right now.
Yeah, this dude is ridiculous. He turned 21 3 months ago. Yes, he is taking the cover off the ball. They're going to start calling him Mr. June. We have Mr. October. We need to start calling Jackson Merrill Mr. June. Yeah, he is arguably, he is one of the major reasons that the Padres are so hot right now. In his last 18 games, 333 batting average, 7 home runs, 371 on base, 712 slugging. Yeah, and to further my case about Rookie of the Year, Jackson Merrill ranks among qualified NL center fielders first in batting average, first in hits, first in home runs, first in RBIs, first in slugging percentage, first in OPS, and first in wins above replacement. Just give him the Rookie of the Year trophy now. Ridiculous.
He certainly makes a compelling case for himself.
Whew. But yeah, anyways, as far as hottest hitter in baseball, yeah. Shut up and take my money. Because he's the hottest hitter in baseball right now, and it's not even close. We've been talking a lot about the Blue Jays for the wrong reasons. Talked about what they might or might not do with the trade deadline. But Carson, buy or sell that the Blue Jays should clean house if they miss the playoffs this year?
I mean, we've talked a lot about it, and I think the key phrase here of clean house also means that they should clean up the coaching staff and the front office and things like that, which is a big reason why I am buying this. I think that John Schneider is well past his expiration date. He is the gallon of milk in the fridge that everybody forgets about until it's 2 months later, and then you realize, oh my God, this is still around, and then immediately chucks it in the trash. That is John Schneider right now with this Toronto Blue Jays team. Again, I talked about it when we talked about the trade deadline. You have all this talent that this team is surrounded with. You have two young cornerstones in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, and you are this far away from the AL East title. Sure, you're technically still in the wild card race, but still, it's just you should not be on the outside looking in with this kind of talent again. Unacceptable.
Yeah, it really makes what was it, like 2-3 years ago when Vlad Jr. came out and was like, "Oh yeah, last year was just a trailer. You're gonna see the movie this year." Yeah, how'd that work out there, Vladdy? Talk about eating your words. Yeah, I mean, how can you not buy this? If the Blue Jays miss the playoffs, and it's a pretty good bet that they will, you got to burn it down, burn it down, burn it all down, start over, the clean house, clean out the roster, unload Bo Bichette, unload Vladdy Jr., Jose Barrios, gone, see you later, manager, general manager, everybody gone, start over, clean slate. You have to. Because not, I mean, okay, granted, Carson, the Blue Jays have made the playoffs the last, 2-3 years in a row. But they have failed to get past the wild card round. 2 years ago, they lost to the Mariners. Last year, they lost to your Twins. Yeah, got to clean it out. Got to start over. We were talking about the Cardinals a little bit earlier when we were talking about the playoff race. Carson, buy or sell that the Cardinals are a threat in the National League Central?
Call this saltiness for them spurning me on my World Series pick last year, but gotta sell it. I don't know if I buy into this team still. I mean, shout out to a person who will always have a special place in my heart, and Sonny Gray. As obviously they've got a lot of talent to make me eat those words, and I'm expecting them to. But at the same time, this is also the team that we saw with much of this same crop of talent struggle big time last
year. Yeah.
So right now I gotta sell this.
You know what? I think I'm gonna buy this. The Cardinals are only 6.5 games behind the Brewers. With about half a season to go. They've won 6 out of they lost their last game, but they've won 6 out of their last 10. I don't know. I sort of just get the feeling that they've figured things out and at least started to turn a corner. And who knows? I mean, yeah, the Brewers are having a great year. Make no mistake, but I'm also kind of wondering, how long can the Brewers keep doing what they've been doing? So, yeah, I think the Cardinals could definitely make a run at it. In an otherwise pretty mediocre division. Bonus buy or sell. Buy or sell that the Pirates make the playoffs.
Oh. I think I gotta sell. I don't think they're quite ready yet, but ask me again in a year.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're quite ready yet.
No, I would sell that too, but they're close. They're really close. Hang in there, Pirates fans. I know it feels like it's been like the last 5 years that we've all been talking about. Oh well, the Pirates they're getting there. They're almost there. No, they really are this time. I don't.
They're arguably on the doorstep.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, they are good on the doorstep. Now I think they'll be a playoff team next year, but who knows? It's baseball, folks. Stranger things have happened. They're only 2.5 games out of a wild card spot as of now. So who knows? Right, Cardinals. And last but not least, buy or sell that Stephen Vogt is the favorite for American League Manager of the Year.
I think I have to buy it. I mean, this in his first year, he has managed to guide this Guardians team to the number 1 seed in the AL. How can you not vote for him?
Yeah, I mean, and oh, by the way, Stephen Vogt, folks, for the record, is only 39 years old. That's not old for a manager.
No.
That's young for a manager, actually. Man. I don't know, though. Favorite, that's such a commitment. Yeah. That's like, all right, let's see. Who else have we got going on here in the American League Manager of the Year? Let's see. I don't know. I think I've got to sell this. I think there's a really good chance that he wins. He's certainly proven himself worthy of serious consideration. And I think he would be the favorite if not for the manager of the division rival Kansas City Royals, Matt Quatraro. Yeah, I think that's right. Matt Q. We'll call him Matt Q. Because as impressive as what Stephen Vogt has done with the Guardians, Carson, I would argue that what Matt Q has done with the Kansas City Royals, wow.
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly undergone quite the turnaround and is very worthy of some consideration.
The Kansas City Royals are back from the dead, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'll tell you though, that American League, the race for American League Manager of the Year is going to be tight. You've got Matt Q, you've got Stephen Vogt, you've got Brandon Hyde, Scott Service, I think needs to be in that mix, considering how he's managed to keep the Mariners, because there have been a few times, there have been more than a few times this season, Carson, where it looked like the Mariners were going under, and all the credit in the world to Scott Service for keeping that from happening and getting them to where they are and getting them to the deadline in the position they're in. But so I'm actually looking at the favorites, the odds for American League Manager of the Year, and I'm quite disgusted by the name at the top of this list. It's AJ Hinch of the Detroit Tigers, who shouldn't even have a managerial job after being part of the 2017 Astros.
Yeah, that and the Tigers started off good, but has anybody noticed that they're in
they've
in the division right now?
Yeah, I was gonna say they started off good, but they've really they've kind of crapped the bed since. So get AJ Hinch, get the frick out of here. All right, that's buy or sell, which means it's time for the mailbag. So don't forget to drop us a line at eighth-inningpod.com/mailbag or at eighth-inning@gmail.com, and we might just read your message on an upcoming episode. We lead off today's mailbag with Carolyn P. Who's more likely to have a shot at winning the Triple Crown this year, Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge?
Oh, that's a good question, and AJ is going to have to choose between two players that he absolutely despises.
Yeah.
I mean, I think right now, I think it's probably Aaron Judge, but I think it's a very close race between these two. Like it could very well be either one, but I think right now it's going to be it's gonna be Aaron Judge.
Well, you said I had to choose between two players I despise. I despise them for different reasons. One is because he's a Yankee. The other is, well, what he is. You know what though? I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Carolyn, neither.
Oh, that is cheating.
Sorry. Neither one's gonna win the Triple Crown. Okay, fine. If I have to pick, I'll agree. I do agree with Carson. I think Aaron Judge does have the better shot. But hopefully neither one of them does. Because yeah, I might have to beat my head against the wall if one of those guys wins the Triple Crown. All right, Josh B wants to know, do you guys agree with Ken Rosenthal picking Corbin Burnes and Ranger Suarez as his all-star starters?
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I think both of them are certainly really good picks. The American League, Corbin Burnes in the American League is the one that I have not necessarily a disagreement, but I think the argument could be made that you could swap in, for example, like a Tanner Houck or a, if we're looking at, I've got the article pulled up here. If we're looking at his roster, you could put like a Tanner Houck in there. I think Garrett Crochet has certainly earned that spot despite his team being god awful. I think there are a couple of different guys that you could put into that spot, but I don't necessarily disagree with either one.
Yeah, I don't know. Ranger Suarez is a pretty solid pick for the National League. We talked about Zach Wheeler earlier, but Zach Wheeler is kind of scuffled. I guess you could go like a Tyler Glasnow or Chris Sale. Maybe it's Sonny Gray, maybe. But yeah, nobody really stands out in the National League like Ranger Suarez does. The American League, I think you've got, not that Corbin Burnes is a bad option, but yeah, you've got Tanner Houck, you've got Tarek Skubal, you've got Logan Gilbert, you've got Luis Castillo. The American League is there. There are more choices in the American League, I think. Ranger Suarez, I feel like, is probably pretty much a lock. But Corbin Burnes, I think there's too many other. I think there's too many other choices to say that Corbin Burnes is a shoe-in. Especially considering Bruce Bochy is the American League All-Star manager this year, and Carson, that nobody ever knows what Bruce is going to do.
No, that man is a closed book. He will not let
Yes.
you know what he is doing
Bruce.
until he absolutely has to.
Bruce is going to Bruce. So, all right. Alex K wants to know, Carson, how many baseball games do we usually watch in a week?
I mean, I'd like to say more if Bally could get its crap together and figure this
Right.
whole thing out with the Twins when I can't even watch my favorite Twins games. So, on average, I'd say with that, obviously, the amount of games I can watch in general has gone down. So the amount of games I do watch, of course, has kind of followed suit. But on average, I try and catch some games if they're on like TBS or Fox or MLB Network when I can. So on average, I'd say probably about 3 or 4 a week.
Yeah. The first thing I thought when I read this question is not as many as I would like. If I had my way, I would just watch baseball, well, maybe not all the time, but I'd watch a heck of a lot more than I do.
Amen.
Yeah. I would say probably like 4, 5-ish. Like maybe like 5 or 6 in a good week. Not as many as I would like. But I try to watch. Yeah, I try to watch as much as I can. but other job and stuff like that. Yeah, not as many as I would like. That's for damn sure. Rachel T, is it crazy to think the Rays will be sellers at the deadline?
Interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's crazy. That AL East is very competitive, right? I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum, even just this episode, how competitive that division is. And right now they're sitting at 42 and 42, 11 and a half games out of that division, but 3.5 games out of the wild card. So I don't think it's crazy to say that that Tampa would be sellers. I think that the big thing that we have to look at with Tampa Bay is their rotation. If they were going to trade anybody, I think there's a couple of pieces there that'll probably get moved solely because of the fact that Shane Baz is going to be coming back from injury. They still think very, very highly of him. Jeffrey Springs is also on his way back up to that major league rotation. So if they try and put them into the rotation, there's a couple of guys that are going to have to get moved, because right now they've got Zach Eflin, Aaron Savali, Taj Bradley, Zach Littell, Ryan Pepia. And I think probably Zach Littell and Aaron Savali are probably the most likely of those guys to get moved. So I don't know if this is necessarily, depending on where Tampa Bay falls, I don't think it's crazy to think of them as a seller, but don't expect it to be a full-blown rebuild if they do sell.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to think that they might be selling, but kind of like we were talking about before, where things are just so, with the way the wild card races are, how things are just kind of so wide open and so many teams are still in the mix, even with, about a month to go until the trade deadline. So I don't think it's crazy to think that any team is going to be buying or selling. I do think it's a little crazy to think about the Rays selling, considering, their recent history and how good they've been. I think that part is a little crazy. But hey, I mean, even if they are sellers at the deadline, I mean, how many people are really going to notice?
Oh.
Hey, you know what? I haven't taken a shot at Tampa in a while, so you know what? I was due for a cheap shot. I mean, it won't affect their attendance one way or the other. I'm sorry. That was bad. Logan R. Should owners who refuse to spend to improve their team, John Henry, be held accountable somehow?
This is a hard question, because I don't like the idea of the league being a czar to dictate to teams what they're supposed to spend. But at a certain point, it also becomes very clear when an ownership group just is not willing to make their team better and
John
is
Fisher.
okay with, it comes back to, like, it's almost like the tanking argument. Should leagues do something about tanking?
Yes.
These issues go hand in hand, because if you're not willing to spend, odds are your team's going to be pretty bad and you're going to want to try and tank to get the best draft pick possible. Now, the nice thing I think about baseball and hockey, with both of those sports and the minor league systems and the possibility for playing in junior hockey and college hockey in the sport of hockey, is that doesn't happen nearly as much, because who's to say, unless you get a generational talent like a Connor Bedard or a Macklin Celebrini or a Paul Skeens, who's to say that guy is going to come through the system in a year or two and be able to make an impact right away? Whereas with football and basketball, if you tank, and you get the number 3 pick, they're easily going to be able to come in and play right away. So I think my overall answer to this question is no, simply because I don't like the idea of leagues telling their teams, hey, you have to spend this kind of money. even though there are clearly owners that are okay with being kind of these basement dwellers. And plus I just don't know how that system would even work. So I just think for right now my answer to this question would be no, but potentially check back with me in a little while.
I mean, I think in a perfect world, I think the answer is yes. I think owners should be held accountable somehow. Um, I, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't like the idea of Major League Baseball. You know, I mean, I've seen some really out there arguments. I've seen and heard, people talk about like it's rather than a salary cap, having a salary floor. Like, oh, teams have to spend, the team salary has to be a minimum of whatever. I don't like that at all. As far as the tanking thing goes, I mean, we mostly see it in the NBA, where teams tank for to get the best chance at winning the draft lottery. Although I'm pretty sure the NBA has some sort of like rule in place about tanking. The NFL doesn't, because Roger Goodell just doesn't give a crap. And as far as MLB and the NHL go, yeah, we've talked about it before. It's like draft picks, highly regarded prospects and draft picks in the NBA, in MLB and the NHL. Sometimes they don't always pan out, and a lot of times, unless like a Paul Skeens or like a Connor Bedard, like you mentioned, or Macklin Celebrini, a lot of times it takes a good few years before these guys even make it through the system.
Yeah.
So it's not instant gratification like you said, like the NFL or the NBA. So, but no, yes, yeah, I would like to see owners held accountable, especially when it is so clearly, especially in cases where it is blatantly obvious that an owner is intentionally sabotaging their team. Hello, John Fisher. And that whole situation, I would love to see John Fisher held accountable somehow. I don't know. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like to see owners like John Fisher be forced to sell the team. Like, if you're not going to invest in making your team better and putting a quality product on the field, that fans are going to want to go pay their hard-earned money to watch, and a team that's at least going to be competitive, then yeah, I think there should be something in place. But again, I don't know how that would work. And like Carson said, I don't like the idea of a league, having that much authority over its owners, over its franchises. Really, that's a slippery slope. But that's a really interesting, great. That's a great question. That's a really interesting thing that I don't think gets talked about enough. So, I mean, I guess you have extreme situations like, Donald Sterling and the LA Clippers, where the NBA, Adam Silver was basically like, okay, we're forcing you to sell the team because of, I mean, that was obviously a very different situation that didn't have anything to do with on the court stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's a really interesting question, and something to definitely some food for thought. And last but not least, Kristen S. If Major League Baseball were to use a player as its logo, like the NBA did with Jerry West, who do you think they should use?
For me, this is a pretty easy answer. I don't know what they would use of his, but I think it has to be Jackie Robinson.
Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah. See, this is interesting because the NBA logo is like, you look at that and it's very clearly Jerry West. It's his pose, shot, whatever you want to call it. So I'm thinking I do really like Jackie Robinson. And actually I didn't even think of that. But if you're gonna put a player on a logo, like you said, it's tricky because I don't know what of Jackie Robinson they would use. I mean, the current MLB logo is just sort of a generic player swinging a bat, although there are urban legends and myths that it's Harmon Killebrew, but it's not. And it prior to the last week or so here, Carson, I would have said Ken Griffey Jr. Because he has the sweetest, purest swing that I've ever seen, and I just think a silhouette of Ken Griffey Jr. swinging a baseball bat would be. But in light of his passing, I think I'd like to see Willie Mays in some form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It might look a little funky, but maybe his famous basket catch in the World Series. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how that might look a little weird, but yeah, I think, I mean, Willie Mays had a pretty sweet swing himself, so I mean, I don't think a silhouette swing a baseball bat would be the worst thing. So, but that's a really interesting. I mean, I don't think MLB has any plans to ever go in that direction. The NBA is pretty much the only, as far as I know, the NBA is pretty much the only major pro sports league that has an actual, player as their logo. But I don't know, Carson. I gotta be honest. I don't know if I would want, as cool as it would be, I don't know if I would want MLB to do that. That's kind of unique to the NBA.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd really want any other sports trying to do that. So,
like,
I mean, it's a cool concept.
It is, yeah. But I don't know if I would want the other sports to do that, even MLB. I mean, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, I mean, you could have MLB do, like we said, Jackie Robinson, Ken Griffey Jr., maybe Willie Mays. The NHL would probably go, Gretzky, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Probably Gretzky. And the NFL, I don't even. If the NFL was going to go that route, give me Joe Montana, because to me, he's still the GOAT of quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm sure some of you, Tom Brady. Yeah, no thanks. Nope, hard pass. I know that sounds. Wait, you're a Boston fan. Yes, but even as a lifelong Patriots fan, I was not a fan, and still am not a fan of Tom Brady. I pretty much take the stance, hey, Tom, thanks for the rings. But other than that, you can just go away. But yeah, anyways. That's the mailbag. Thank you, as always, all of you who wrote into the mailbag. Don't forget, you drop us a line, 8thinningstretch.com/mailbag or 8thinningstretch@gmail.com, and we might read your message on an upcoming episode. Must watch games real quick. Is there anything upcoming on the, let's see here. What have we got coming up here in the next couple of days?
Orioles Mariners, that looks pretty interesting.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Possible playoff preview there. Reds, Yankees, that's an unusual. That's a matchup you don't see a lot. That could be interesting. Yeah, there's actually not D-backs, Dodgers, I guess for NL West. Yeah, there's actually not a whole heck of Cardinals, Pirates. I mean, that's always a good time. White Sox, Guardians would be fun, or more fun if the White Sox didn't suck so bad. Yeah, not a whole heck of a lot the next few days. Which leads me to my next question. Carson, do you have a tankathon for us?
There may not be a lot in terms of must watch, but we've got a heck of a tankathon that starts on Tuesday.
Nice.
Oakland A's, I'm really sorry to do it to you. I really am. But the Oakland Athletics, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim at the Oakland Stadium starting on Tuesday. So, as always, if you want to watch some bad baseball and see potentially the worst stadium in MLB history, go ahead and check out that series.
That is, in fact, some bad baseball. Poor A's fans, man. Carson, you can't help but feel for A's fans.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's just
You
feel horrible
guys,
for them.
you guys might be the most like unlucky, just neglected fan base in all of sports. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than that. All right. One last thing. I yeah, I am gonna this is maybe a little bit of trigger warning for some of you. But there is an article now available on the Athletic about the imprisoned ex-Angels employee Eric Kay, who was, of course, sentenced to 20-some-odd years in prison for his role in the just awful, tragic death of Tyler Skaggs. And I kind of thought when I initially saw this headline, I kind of thought, okay, maybe the time he's spent in prison, and maybe the fact that it's we're fast approaching the 5-year anniversary of Tyler Skaggs' death, and maybe Kay has had time to reflect, and maybe he realizes, maybe he would do this interview and he would, hey, look, I feel horrible for what happened, and accept responsibility for his role in what happened. Except he didn't. Eric Kay basically did exactly the complete opposite. I'm not going to bore you guys with the entire interview. You guys can read it at your leisure on The Athletic. But basically what it boils down to is some of the major points from this thing. Kay said that he believes his 22-year sentence was unjust. He criticized the performance of attorneys at his trial. That's a bold move. He lamented how his conviction shattered his family and led to estrangement. Well, yeah. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? But maybe the worst part, maybe the most infuriating part of this, is Kay does not believe he's responsible for Tyler Skaggs' death. He said, quote, "I feel horrible that I didn't stop contributing to his addiction. He had so much more to live for than me. I don't mean that to sound trite. He did. He was just married. Now he's making millions of dollars. He's basically a frontline starter." Basically says, I should have said, "What are you doing?" Yeah. So essentially, the point I'm getting at is Eric Kay could have done a hell of a lot more to prevent Tyler Skaggs' tragic death. And I was hoping that maybe he would show some sort of contrition and some sort of regret, some sort of remorse at least, even though that wouldn't bring, nothing can bring Tyler Skaggs back. He had basically, Eric Kay had one. The point I'm getting at is Eric Kay had one chance, one opportunity to do the right thing, even though I know, I mean, obviously, no matter what he said or did, there's no way to bring Tyler back. But I was hoping at least that given the one chance in this interview, in the form of this interview, to do the right thing, that he would do the right thing. And and he failed miserably. And it's upsetting, it's infuriating, but maybe most of all, I would have to believe that any of Tyler Skaggs' family and friends who, I'm sure they've heard about the interview. I don't know if any of them have read it. Probably not. I mean, I don't think I would, but any of them who have heard or seen any part of this interview, heard about it or read it themselves, it's got to be just a knife through the heart, and it's got to be pretty damn close to like losing Tyler all over again. And I hope Eric K. I hope he is completely miserable for the rest of his sentence and the rest of his life, because he's a garbage human being. And I know he's talking here about how his conviction, shattered his family and led to estrangement. You know what, dude? You got exactly what you deserved. Because you could have prevented this, and you didn't. And now you're paying the price for it. And to sit here in this interview and try to, turn things around and dodge responsibility is just, it's disgusting. And yeah, like seriously, screw you. Like the biggest double middle finger screw you to Eric K.
Yeah, well said. I'll have to check out that interview because I haven't actually read it, but wow.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my mind around not even apologizing to his family or anything,
Yeah.
because you may not think you did, but you had a role in it. Like you supplied him with the things that ended up killing. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. I personally couldn't live with that on my conscience, but
Yeah, me neither. I just sent you the link to it.
Perfect.
So check it out when you get a chance.
Awesome. Yeah, I will definitely have to read that, but I don't really have anything too crazy for my one last thing. A few different topics kind of bounced around in my head, but they were all kind of non-baseball related, and I've been on a little bit of a non-baseball related kick with my one last things for a little while. So I guess my main thing is going to be just kind of a not necessarily a Twins tirade level of Twins rant from me this time out, but just kind of taking a look at trying to analyze what exactly is going on with my Twins in terms of developing players, because it seems like we either hit really well or we miss. Royce Lewis has been a very great success story when he's healthy. I mean, he's been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. That is where I have my issue with Ken Rosenthal's all-star rosters, because Royce Lewis isn't on it. But I look at a guy like Royce Lewis and guys like, who have, who was a touted prospect, came up and fulfilled his potential. Byron Buxton, same thing. When he came up and fulfilled his potential, when he's healthy, he's one of the best in baseball. But then I think about guys like Miguel Sano, who was one of the top prospects in baseball right alongside Byron Buxton, and is now on the Los Angeles Angels. Didn't even play in baseball last season. I think about guys like Alex Kirilloff, guys like Edward Julian, who had great years last year, but then couldn't keep it together this year and got sent down. I think about guys like Trevor Larnach, who was a first-round pick and right now has been a tweener between the majors and the minors. I think about a guy like Austin Martin, who was one of the big prospects included in the Jose Barrios trade, along with Simeon Woods Richardson, who has started to kind of see his potential, but Austin Martin's been turned into like a utility guy. I think about a guy like Nick Gordon, who was at one time a top prospect and turned into a utility guy after being like a 4th overall pick. And I just question a lot of times why we can't develop players with this front office of Derek Falvey and Thad Levine, who, when they came in, were known for developing players and developing pitchers at that. We haven't really been able to develop any sort of pitcher. Joe Ryan got traded to us. He was already in the Tampa Bay Rays system, and we know those guys turn out pitchers like candy. Simeons Woods Richardson has been good, but a lot of these top prospects are guys that are now in the minors. Louis Varland down in the minors struggling. Jordan Balasovich seems to be destined to be a minor leaguer for the rest of his career out of the bullpen instead of being a starting pitcher. It blows my mind that we've had so many top prospects in this organization that never panned out to be anything. And at some point, the front office has got to take a look in the mirror and say, maybe it's not the players, maybe it's us. And again, I'm not trying to be too negative on this. I'm just genuinely trying to look at it and say, what the heck is going on? Why can't we develop players like we used to be able to? Like when guys came up through the minor system, they were fantastic. I mean, Joe Mauer got drafted out of high school, came in and was one of the greatest Twins players of all time. Michael Kadire, Torrey Hunter, Justin Morneau, Joe Nathan. All of these guys were guys that we got fairly young who developed. Johan Santana. All of these guys were guys that we got fairly young who were able to develop in our system and turn out to be some of the greatest Twins to ever put on the jersey. And now I look at prospects that are sitting in the minors. I look at a guy like Walker Jenkins and Walker Jenkins, Brooks Lee, two of the top prospects in baseball, a 1-2 punch in our prospect system that we haven't seen since Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano. And I think, all right, which one of them is going to pan out to be something and which one of them is going to blow it? And that's not a way that any baseball fan should be looking at their prospect system.
No, I mean, yeah, that has to be incredibly frustrating. But I mean, baseball prospects especially, are kind of hit or miss. But yeah, I mean, as a fan, you would expect some sort of consistency, especially when you see all these, I don't know, like all these, columnists and whatever are always putting out, ranking the farm systems. And it feels pretty good to see your favorite team on there. But when your favorite team doesn't make that list, even though I think power rankings in any way, shape, or form are utterly ridiculous and useless. But when an organization like Baseball Prospectus, ranks the farm systems, yeah, you want to see your name, you want to see your team, high on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, MLB Pipeline, Baseball Prospectus.
Yep. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about MLB Pipeline. Yeah, they're another one. But yeah, that has to be incredibly frustrating. But hey, like I always say, baseball, folks, am I right? Baseball's weird. It's weird and unique and wonderful, and that's why we love it. Most of the time. But yeah, I get it. We love it even more when our favorite teams are doing well on and off the field. So yeah. Well, ladies and gents, that brings us sadly to the end of another episode of the 8th Inning Stretch. You catch us live just about every Sunday on YouTube and Twitter, and on demand anytime at 8th Inning Pod. At Linktree/8th Inning Stretch, and at 8thinningpod.com. Follow us at 8th Inning Pod on Twitter, and for more, including our newsletter/blog, 2 Strike Count, which you can subscribe to for free and get it right to your inbox, as well as our original documentary series, The Book of Baseball, of which there is a brand new episode available now. Head to 8thinningpod.com. And help us continue making the best indie baseball content this side of home plate by supporting the show, either using the QR code on your screen or at 8thinningpod.com/donate. If you are watching/listening to this on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So I in my little spiel there, I always say, Pretty much every Sunday. Next Sunday is one of those exceptions. Because Carson, you and your family are celebrating quite a milestone next Sunday.
Yes, my beloved grandmother, her birthday is on July 4th. She turns 99 this year. So,
Bravo, 99.
Yes. So we are going to
Well
be,
done.
we're going to be heading as us Minnesotans call it up north, which is a very generalized region. But we'll be heading up north for the weekend to celebrate with her, see some extended family that we haven't seen in quite some time. So, and it's always a fun time, but you know, it's a good few hours away, and you know, it's always the Minnesotan goodbye is very real, and just out of an abundance of caution, and knowing that by the time we get back, I wouldn't be able to give 100% to you guys. I talked with AJ and figured it would just be better to use this weekend to give us a little refresher. Let everybody kind of celebrate the 4th of July weekend too. And then we'll be rip roaring and ready to go in a couple of weeks.
I can't believe this Thursday is 4th of July. That does not seem possible.
Nuts.
That's insane. Yeah, that's ridiculous. So we're off next Sunday. You guys will still get 2-strike count next week. Kind of thinking about maybe tweaking the format of 2-strike count a little bit. Because to be perfectly honest with you guys, putting it out 3 times a week is kind of getting to be a lot. And I feel like I'm spreading myself a little too thin, so I've got to do some thinking / whatever else about that. But as always, we'll keep you guys in the loop. In the meantime, head to eighthittingpod.com. Check out our entire back catalog of episodes. Every episode, all the way back, all the way to the beginning. You could listen to all of them there. Check out check out 2-strike count if you haven't. Check out Book of Baseball if you haven't. That's kind of where we're at. Since this is our last episode before the 4th of July, we'll wish you all a early, happy, safe 4th of July. Have fun, with your family and friends celebrating the 4th. But please, also, be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything crazy.
Please be safe.
Don't blow yourselves up.
Fireworks are dangerous, people.
Yes, they are. And also, if you live in an area where fireworks happen to not be like home fireworks happen to not be allowed, please respect that. For your safety, for the safety of everyone around you, and also because out of respect for our veterans, because fireworks can be extremely triggering for veterans. I know right here in my home community, they've got signs up all over the place about the fireworks thing, and their impact on veterans and also on pets. Animals, especially dogs. Generally, not all dogs, but some dogs are definitely not a fan of fireworks because dogs have really sensitive hearing. So anyways, my point is, if you live in an area where that is the case, please respect that. Because you might think, they're just trying to ruin the fun of the 4th. No, they're just trying to keep everyone safe. That's what it comes down to. So respect that if your community happens to have those guidelines in place. But other than that, have a happy and safe 4th, everybody. We'll be back with you on so Sunday's the 7th. Yeah, so we'll be back with you guys on the 14th. Would you look at that, Carson? Our next episode, we'll be back on the 14th, right before the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game.
Nice. Look at that timing.
That's the best. That's the best timing. Wow, that worked out really well for us. But yeah, anyways, we'll be back with you guys on the 14th, right as on the eve of the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of your physical health, but maybe even more so, take care of your mental health. It's extremely important. And also make sure you take care of each other.